So yeah, my 335i decided to take a dump on me. Pretty scary stuff. It's really hot outside. I wonder if that had a factor to do with it, but I was at a Wendy's drive-thru for like 20 minutes, just dead stopped on drive. And keep in mind, it's blazing hot outside. And then there was like a transmission, like a thump, like a boom. Then all the warning lights came on, every single one you could think of: engine light, ABS, coolant, freaking everything came up. Wiper blades were going back and forth very rapidly. I couldn't turn it off. None of the electronics worked, the power window or anything like that. And I was like, what the hell's going on? So then I would turn off the car, turn back the car on, and everything would start working again properly. And then seconds later, the same thing would happen. I called over PSI to see if they knew what was going on. I also have a tablet here for MHD. And I ran some codes and it said a bunch of electrical issues, which is crazy. So then I called over PSI to find out if they knew what it was. And Ali said that he thinks it's the alternator. And then if I can, try to make it over there. Well, I attempted to try to make it over there. The first stoplight, I had a coolant temperature warning that came up, the yellow one, which is like the mild one. And then seconds later, there was a red one. Keep in mind, wiper blades are still going like at 100 miles an hour, freaking burning rubber on my windshield. And I didn't feel safe driving it anymore, so I parked the car and I'm gonna get it towed over to PSI to see what's wrong with it. It's a sad, sad day, but it happens. Yep, there she goes, getting pulled onto the tow truck. Such a sad, sad day. But it is what it is, right? You can't expect everything to go perfect. I mean, stuff happens, doesn't it? Especially when you start adding power to your car and adding modifications. Things like this are bound to happen. So it is what it is. Hopefully it's not that big of an issue and doesn't break my wallet. We'll see. She's gonna be on her way to PSI. I'm gonna have the guys over there look at it. It might be the alternator with all the electrical issues that was going on. Pretty much everything electrical was either bugging out or was cut off completely. Weird enough, after letting the car sit for a couple minutes and trying to start her up, all the problems went away. So it might be the alternator just giving out. A 335i with an N54 engine. What a surprise. I meant that sarcastically, by the way. It's no secret that this platform can get very expensive, especially after spending a lot of money to upgrade the turbos, and then shortly after that the injectors crapping out and having to spend $1,500 on new index 12 injectors. And then this. At this very moment, while the 335i is being strapped onto the tow truck, all I can think to myself is, what went wrong? I had opened up the trunk and looked at the battery compartment. There was nothing wrong that I can see. The wires were intact, everything was tightened, no water to be found. I had opened the hood as well, no funny business there, no weird smells. And all I could say is, if there's one thing I know from owning several cars in the past, is that electrical issues are not very fun and can get very, very complicated. I arrived at PSI, immediately unloaded the 335i and had the guys diagnose the issue. Did you get some codes yet?
Yeah.
What do you got?
All the voltage.
What does that mean? Nothing electrical works?
Basically. The alternator's missing, so...
The alternator's missing?
Yeah.
From the list?
That somebody stole it.
Someone... Yeah, Wendy's, right? Yeah.
I did get Wendy's.
So, you know the person that stole all their burgers? They also stole your alternator.
Oh, the meat, yeah. The beef. Isn't that your original guess when I called you? That it was the alternator?
It wasn't a guess.
What was it then?
That was a fact. Because I know what the hell I'm talking about.
Okay. So the final word? Alternator? And of course, they confirmed that it was indeed the alternator. The funniest part about that is, if you guys watched my previous 335i video, I had just spoke about skipping out on changing the alternator when I was doing an engine out service at PSI, because it's never given me any issues. If you haven't watched that video yet, here, I'll show you. They told me to swap out the electric water pump, which is a very weak point of the N54, but I decided not to because I had just swapped it out around 3 years ago, so I thought it would be okay. The alternator is another thing that I probably should have swapped out for a peace of mind. The engine does have 80,000 miles on it, but I figured, you know what, it's never giving me any issues and it's very expensive to buy one. So anyways, I skipped out on that one. So yeah, I chose not to swap out the alternator when I probably should have, especially when the engine was out of the car. Just like the injectors that I chose not to swap out, and then a week later they failed. And if my luck continues to go the same way that it's going right now, the third thing I chose not to replace at the time was the electric water pump, because I had replaced it 3 years ago, but I can already sense that happening very soon. Fingers crossed that it doesn't happen though. Moral of the story is, don't be like me. Don't take any shortcuts and don't be cheap about certain things. I did a lot of the stuff correct when I had the engine out, but I chose to leave some things behind that were recommended to swap out. And here we go. Now I'm losing a little bit of time and I've added a little bit of extra stress to my life. Anyways, when I got to PSI, I was already kind of late, so they weren't going to finish the job that day. So I went ahead and left. They called me the next day, told me the car was fixed, so it was time for me to pick it up. Back at PSI to pick up my car. Apparently it's fixed. Gotta find out what's going on. What's going on with the car?
Oh, alternator's changed, all good now.
That was all?
Yeah.
Somebody said something about the voltage regulator that's attached to the alternator.
Oh yeah, but I mean, if you're pulling out the alternator to change that, you might as well.
Might as well just do the whole thing, right? I mean, the alternator has 80,000 miles, so that would be the way.
Then you'll be good for another 10 years, and probably won't even have the car in 10 years.
Probably so, yeah. Just like Zach explained, it could have easily just been the voltage regulator, which is just a $40 part versus a $500 plus part for the alternator, depending if you go with refurbished or brand new. But remember, the moral of the story, no shortcuts, don't cheap out. If they're already at the alternator, it has 80,000 miles, it's the original one, might as well just swap it out so I don't have to worry about it in the future, or at least in the near future. Well, there you have it. All that electrical shenanigans that was going on while I was driving the car is totally fixed here by the PSI guys. They just swapped out the alternator and everything's back to normal. Well, yeah, that's been my week. How's your week going? And now that everything's taken care of, I can go ahead and contact my tuner, finalize the custom tune for the twin turbos, and show you guys in the next video what she got. 0 to 60 time, quarter miles time, dyno, all that good stuff. Subscribe. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.